Throughout history, mariners have told fantastic tales of the sea, causing many to wonder what lies beneath the water's surface. Some of these tales are terrifying, while others are simply strange. But generations of gullible listeners continue to latch on hook, line, and sinker. In 1659, English colonists settled on a small island off the coast of Massachusetts, known as Nantucket. There, a group of strict and pious Quakers, which included farmers, shepherds, and fishermen, hoped to establish a sustainable trading community. However, they struggled to survive on the small island with its limited resources. That is until one day, from atop the tallest hill, several Nantucketers saw an opportunity. They had seen a pod of migrating whales spouting nearby and said, There's a green pasture where our children's grandchildren shall go for bread." But there was just one problem. None of the Quakers knew how to whale. And so in 1690, they contacted an experienced and somewhat boisterous whaler from Cape Cod named Ichabod Paddock to instruct them in the best manner of killing whales and extracting their oil. Paddock was known throughout the area for always capturing and killing whatever whale came across his bow. And so they struck an agreement, and Paddock, along with his wife Melinda and her father, moved to the island. Paddock worked daily with the islanders, teaching them how to hunt, process, and extract the valuable whale oil. They quickly learned his methods, and pretty soon Nantucket emerged as a major commercial whaling port. But despite Paddock's success at teaching the Quakers how to whale, his various improprieties were becoming troublesome for the community. The often inebriated Paddock would openly flirt with women and cursed like the sailor that he was. And so the locals sought to rid themselves of this crude individual who did not conform to their Quaker values. But Paddock took no notice of their objections to his conduct and continued his reckless behavior. Then one day, while out at sea, Paddock and his crew spotted a whale off in the distance. But this was no ordinary whale. It was the largest they'd ever seen. Nantucketers had heard of this monster from the deep, who was said to have an impenetrable hulk, an evil eye, and a twisted mouth, earning him the name Crookjaw. His crewmates warned him that this elusive beast had left countless whalers with nothing more than empty hulls in its wake. But Paddock knew this could fetch a huge payday with more oil than he could ever imagine. They slowly drifted near Crookjaw and readied their harpoons, preparing for the violent struggle ahead. Paddock then hurled his harpoon towards the whale, but with a dull thud, the lance ricocheted off its scarred body and fell into the sea. Paddock grabbed another harpoon, this one even sharper. He threw it at the whale with all his might, but it shattered into 1,000 pieces, with Crookjaw never flinching. Paddock was now furious, as no whale had ever escaped the thrust of his harpoon. Paddock grabbed a knife, looked to his crew, and said, "Wait for me." He leapt into the sea and frantically swam towards Crookjaw. As he approached, the beast yawned. Paddock shouted, "Do that again." Crookjaw obliged and opened his mouth. But instead of stabbing the whale, Paddock dove in head first and was swallowed whole. When he came to, it was dark. His eyes slowly adjusted to the absence of light. He then realized he was inside the cavernous belly of the beast. He squinted and saw a door. He yanked it open and was stunned to see the most incredible sight. A beautiful mermaid playing cards with the devil. And after losing the hand, he slammed down his cards and stared angrily at Paddock. "Curse you, Paddock." "Apologies for barging in. What are you playing for?" With a laugh, the mermaid said, "You." Meanwhile, back on the surface, his crew trailed the sluggish Crookjaw, keeping a close eye on his every move. But then, as dawn broke, Paddock miraculously appeared and was pulled aboard wearing a wide grin across his face. Paddock then told the incredible tale of his evening inside Crookjaw's belly. Back on Nantucket, rumors of Paddock's brush with Death, the Devil, and a Mermaid swept across the island, and it didn't take long for the scandalous details of his underwater tryst to reach the ears of his wife Melinda, a beautiful woman with an ample sense of jealousy. She believed the only way her husband could be seduced by a mermaid was if the sea creature were in fact a witch who had cast a spell upon him. You see, hysteria had swept across the region after the Salem witch trials had begun. So in order to free her husband from the witch's spell, she had a strong silver-tipped harpoon forged, believing that silver was the only metal that could pierce the heart of a witch. She then gave it to Paddock, who was unaware of her plan. And days later, while he was preparing for his next voyage, she insisted that her father join him, with the secret intention to find and kill the witch. Just as they rode out of port, Crookjaw emerged from the waters. Melinda's father grabbed the silver-tipped harpoon and steadied himself, waiting for the right moment to strike. Paddock laughed at the old man, knowing the harpoon couldn't penetrate the beast. But when he threw the silver-tipped harpoon, it drove deep into its flesh, stunning Paddock and his crew. And in that moment, Crookjaw drew his final breath. Paddock anxiously awaited to see what they would find inside the whale. But when they opened its belly, all they found were a couple of strands of gold seaweed, a pink shell, and 2 emerald-colored jellyfish. The spell had been lifted, Paddock was free, and the witch was gone. But it was too late. After hearing about Paddock's illicit behavior with a mermaid, the Quaker elders of Nantucket banished him for keeping company with young women not of our society. And so his stay on the island had come to an end. But Ichabod Paddock would be remembered for successfully teaching the Quakers how to whale, thereby helping Nantucket become the center of the whaling industry. You know, some tales lie between fact and fiction, but as they say, the bigger the fish, the bigger the story. And this was one whale of a story.